So will you join me in prayer? Mother, Father, God, our Creator, give me the words, the message. Give me what your people needs to hear today. So, I've heard these two readings many times. I've heard pastors talk about them. I've read them. And I see often we talk about the contrast. The disciples, the family of Jesus, huddled in a room, terrified. And then something happens. Jesus walks among them, and they leave that room, and they start to build a church, to grow their family, to grow a community of belief. What happened in that room to overcome their fear? So, a lot of people use it, a lot of speakers use it as a proof of Jesus' resurrection. And I get that. And that's a message that I agree, but I don't know that it's the message we need to hear. So instead, today I want to talk about fear. Because the people in that room were terrified. And then they seemingly weren't. So the thing is we all have known fear. I suspect very strongly everybody in this room has known fear. Maybe it was in the active service to your country, bullies in school, I don't know, maybe a terrifying outing into the wilderness. But, well, if you haven't, let me help you. Boom. So, okay, that wasn't so great. So the thing is, though, is it's a common, universal human thing, fear. It's hardwired. It's part of who we are. And if you think about it, when humanity was new, so many thousands of years ago, and we would go out and hunt for our meal and deal with animals that were hunting for theirs and try not to be lunch. Fear served a really good purpose. It kept us alive. It kept us striving. But today's world has changed. And sometimes that thing that we fear is not a short-term thing, but it continues on and on. Those people that were in that room, the family of Jesus, his chosen family, those people had a legitimate reason to fear. Think about where they were. The leader of their whole organization, the leader of the movement, has been hung on a tree and killed. They're going to round up all of us? Is that our fate? Is that what's going to happen to everybody? It's a legitimate fear. So they hid. So the first thing I want to talk about with fear is legitimate. It's real. And I don't know how often it has happened to you. It happened to me a lot growing up, where I'd be afraid of something and get mocked for my fear. Oh, come on, jump off the high board. Touch the spider. It's just a spider. It's this big around. It's just a spider. Oh, it's just a garter snake. You understand what I'm talking about? Fear is real. It's conditioned. It's part of who we are. Don't mock another person's fear. Acknowledge it. Recognize it as real. And maybe even help them learn the lessons that they need to learn from it. So, the first thing is that fear is real. And the people in that room had a reason to be afraid. That new church had a reason to be afraid. So what happened? The next thing that I want to talk about is that fear harms. And it harms in a lot of nefarious ways. What I mean is when you are paralyzed with fear, when you're in a situation where you're afraid, biologically, chemically in your body, adrenaline is dumped, your heart rate elevates, your blood pressure goes up, you start to sweat, your biological, food processing stops working, which is why when you've been afraid, a lot of times you'll get indigestion or an upset stomach. That's harm. But beyond that, fear keeps us from doing those things that we need to do to better ourselves. Now, I'm going to get a little bit into the biologics of fear, and I hope you'll bear with me. There's a little part of our brain, about the size of 3 fingers, that's called the limbic system, or the limbic part of the brain, right above the spinal cord. And that is the part of the brain, some people call it the lizard brain, because small vertebrates and stuff like that, that's all the brain they have. And it's the center of the fight, flight, or fear, or the fight, flight, or freeze part of our body. And it's where a lot of the really strong emotions reside. And when you activate the limbic system, the higher part of your brain, the greater reasoning, the better thinking part of you stops working. Because you have a saber-toothed cat coming your way, and you don't have time to read him a Shakespearean sonnet. That's not going to help. You got to run. You got to fight, or you got to hide. And those are your only 3 real valuable options. But that doesn't help you in a boardroom, or in a classroom, or on the streets. And I can illustrate for you guys, and I think almost everybody's had this experience. So, have you ever been in a situation where somebody that's kind of a bully, probably a verbal bully, sends you a zinger? Just maybe says something about your mama, or says something about you, how you dress, how you look, whatever. And normally, in a normal situation, you could come up with a great comeback, the perfect comeback to put that person in their place and to show that you are peers, that you're not afraid. But you can't. In that situation, you can't do it. Your mind won't work. You might want to hit them. You might want to run. You might want to fade off into the wallpaper. But you can't come up with the words that you need to handle that situation. That's your limbic brain. That's the limbic brain wanting you to either fight, flight, or freeze. And those are your only options. If it was a friend, somebody that you trusted, that you'd been around more, and you weren't afraid, you can come back with that zinger. And you have it. You have it right there. Sometimes I try to remember the catalog, which ones work for what situation. But you understand what I mean. And that's the limbic brain. That's how the limbic brain works. Fear is real, and fear causes real harm. And it was harming those people in that room. Now, another thing I want to talk about then is that what they went through, in a way, is somewhat like what we went through 2.5 years ago. And I know I can't speak for politics for everybody, but I'm pretty sure where most of us fall. And we had a leader. We had a leader that made mistakes and wasn't always right, but he respected people. He respected minorities. He respected the country that he served. And he tried very hard to do good things. Okay, he probably didn't respect Kanye West that much, but given some of the other things that have happened since, I can't really blame him. And this isn't about politics in the sense of policies and stuff, but imagine back how you felt. And then the election results came in, and we lost our leader. This new guy. this new guy, we were afraid of him. Some of the things that were said about him, some of the things he said, he did. He was dividing the country, not bringing it together. He was attacking parts of the American population, minorities, immigrants, LGBT folks. And we were afraid. I was. Now think about where we were then. And it wasn't as dire a situation as the new church in that room. But think about that feeling. And then magnify it to where those people were. And Jesus walked among them. And Jesus talked to them. And did he mock their fear? No. No, he did not. He acknowledged it. He acknowledged it. Now, the reading spoke about Thomas. And Thomas is well maligned for, unless I stick my finger. But I want to consider something there. The church was on the verge of monumental decisions. How the whole future of their organization was going to work. And I think he wasn't being a coward. I think he was being an attorney. I don't care what you think. I want evidence. You see what I'm saying? It isn't what you know, it's what you can prove. And so I kind of understand where he was coming from. And Jesus called him on it and said, here it is, touch. But I don't think he mocked him. And I don't think he mocked any of them for being afraid. Because their fear was real. Our fear was real and well-founded. So what is the lesson in that? To hide in a room? That's not what they did. Now, I will also point out something else. When they walked out of that room, in the second reading, when Peter talked to the leaders of the church, I think he was still afraid. I think he and the people that followed him were terrified. Because they were human. And that's a human reaction. But I think that they learned something that's valuable. Learned something that was really, really important. Jesus gave them that something. That whether you're afraid or not afraid, that isn't a decision. The decision is, what are you going to do? How are you going to live? Are you going to hide in that room amongst people that you are comfortable with? Your family, your chosen family. Or are you going to go out there and be true to who you are, and to be true to what you are, and to be true to what you believe? And that's what they did, but I still think they were afraid. It's been 2.5 years, and I still have fear. And these are things I struggle with. And in a sense, I think this sermon is as much for me as it is for anyone else. So, when you look at your situation, when you have an opportunity to share with someone, when you have an opportunity to speak out for our community, should you not be afraid? I think our fears can be legitimate. Our fears are legitimate. I think that it is acceptable, okay, and totally understandable to be scared. But at the same time, what are you going to do with that fear? How are you going to move forward, move beyond that fear? So that's the other thing. Moving beyond fear is healing, affirming, and is part of the growth that we all need to seek as human beings. Not that the fear isn't real. Not that the situation isn't necessarily dangerous. It probably is. But to continue doing what we're supposed to do in the face of it. To continue to live our lives the way we're supposed to live those lives in the face of the fear. Not letting the fear own us. That is the message in those readings that I see. That's the message that I want to share. And I want to share it with me too. Because I know I struggle with this. I work in an environment that's really, really right-wing and redneck. And it can be scary. I've dealt with some situations, I mean, not physical assaults or anything like that, but I was in an environment that I was not comfortable. And I know that each one of you could probably tell at least one tale similar to what I'm talking about. The fear's real. The fear of those people in that room were real and legit. But what do we do? Do we hide? Do we stay just within those people that we're comfortable with? Or do we go out there? And do we proclaim who we are, what we are, and that we have the right to be here? Not as stepchildren, but as full children of Jesus, of God, as full citizens of this nation, as full members of our community. Please hear me to consider your own safety. Don't take risks that you don't need to take, or be daring in ways that could be foolhardy. But at the same time, don't hide. That's not the promise that we were given. We weren't promised to be able to hide and it'll be okay. We are promised to live into a greater future. And the future's out there. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you. Amen.